What's up, everyone? This is Rob. Just wanting to remind you that we are having our first giveaway ever for the Top Podcast coming out on Christmas. What you need to do is go on our Twitter at The Top Podcast. All words are spaced with the underscore in between, so the_top_podcast. Follow us and then retweet our post. We're giving away one of our Redbubble mugs, so if you ever wanted to have a loose face plastered over a mug, guess what? Now is your chance. We're also happy to be partnering with our friends over at G3 Coffee. G3 Coffee is a specially roasted coffee, and it's going to be better than your average coffee. They only source high-quality beans and pay close attention to the detail throughout each roast. They're a small batch roaster, meaning each bag gets special care throughout the process. They strive to bring out the natural flavors of the coffee in the roast. The result is a cup with complexity, depth, and it'll make a great addition to your morning routine. Once again, thank you G3 Coffee Co. for partnering with us. Be sure to go on Twitter and give us a follow and retweet our post, and we'll do the drawing on Christmas. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Top Podcast. I'm your host, Rob, and joined with me, as always, are Lou.
Hammers.
And Mike.
Hey.
Now, this week we have a very special guest joining us. I'm going to let Lou introduce him.
All right. Drum roll, please. Are you doing that with your mouth or something else?
Hey.
Crazy.
What else
All
would
right.
you do?
I don't know. Yeah. I am proud to introduce one of my best friends in the whole world. I met him as a young pup when he was breaking hearts left and right. I'm proud to say that we went 37-0 in Call of Duty Duels multiplayer during COVID times. My favorite quotes from him are, "There's no stars in California," and the simple, "I'm my boy, Seamus."
How's it going? It's great to be here. Thank you for the introduction.
You're very welcome.
I was wondering if the whole stars in California thing will get brought up or not.
I mean, it has to.
Since you two
All of us are here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need to invite a girl.
It's like
I don't
a
even know.
reunion.
Do you remember the girl's name, Seamus?
Do you want to say it out loud?
Well, we'll censor it.
No.
So.
Don't even remember her name.
Dang, what a player.
Hey, it's okay.
He's got game.
Oh my God.
Hold on, I gotta know, what is the context to this?
All right, are you ready, or do you want me? Do you want to say it, Robert? Or
You
want
can
me to
go
say
for it.
Yeah,
Go
you
for it.
go for it, Lou. I feel like you're better at telling stories than
All
I am.
right, sounds good. Okay, so at Bear Lake, there's always, for the teens, there's always a night game. So me and Rob were working makeout police. You ever seen like mall rent-a-cops who were like really good at their job and like take it real seriously? It's like mixed with that and like pre-game football prime time energy me and Robert were giving
I don't
out.
know
We were
about
like
that one.
headbutting each other. We were so excited.
I was excited because then I didn't have to play the game. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do mop. I got no problem. Then I just have to walk around. I don't have to act like I'm playing this stupid game.
I always wanted
I-
to be on map. That sounded like the
Mhm.
best job.
It was a good time. And they gave us these really big flashlights, and me and Robert scanned that whole place. And so I think an hour in, we were like, all right, I think we know where some things might happen. So we check it out and we see two figures, and Robert just darts. I look left and then I look back and he's gone. He's like 30 yards away from me.
I don't
So
mess
I try
around.
to catch up. And Robert's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I was like, it's just like, all right, well, we're doing this. I was like, and it's Seamus and some other girl just laying just peacefully. They're not doing anything crazy. They weren't making out or anything, but we made this thing such a big deal. We were shining lights in their faces. We were just like terrorizing these like teenagers. And the only thing Seamus could say was, "There's no stars in California. That's why we're laying down like this." And Robert was like, "That's bullshit. That's bullshit. There are stars in California. Get up and get going."
Well,
was a good
I'm
time.
actually able to report that there are no stars in California until Hot Kyle gets there.
Wow.
But the way
Oh,
I
boy.
remember that is we were walking. We checked, the obvious, like there's the Love Shack as it was termed there. We checked the
Classic.
Love Shack and, double decks and all
Mm-hmm.
that. And how I remember is we were just strolling, walking on the field, and our lights just seemed to catch Seamus. And I don't think I doubt I ran. I mean, I'm not a runner, so I'm sure I did give you crap for it though. I'm like that mall cop. I'm just waiting for something to happen. Like, good, let me out.
If you're on mop and you see anything that you can blow out of proportion, it's almost a requirement. like
Yeah. It was so fun.
if I
Yeah.
spotted somebody
The girl-
tagging somebody else as part of the game, I'd be like, 6-inch rule.
It was a good time.
So every week we like to have an icebreaker, and this one was sent in by Sarah, who has sent a couple before. Thank you, Sarah. And the question is, what animal are you the least afraid of, and what animal could you beat, but it's you versus 50 of them? I'm guessing it's bare hands, She didn't say like you get a choice of a weapon or anything.
So that's
Interesting. It's a good
That is
question.
Does it have to be the same answer for both questions?
Well, it says or, so I'm going to say you can pick. You can mix and match if you
Okay.
want. You can even do this is my favorite. This is what I think I'd beat in a fight. But if I had to do both together, you can throw that option in too.
Yeah, because like I don't think the animal I'm least afraid of is a mouse, but I could take 50 mice.
I don't know.
very doable.
Rats and mice are different.
Rats
yeah.
and mice are different. I've played Dishonored.
Yeah.
Not the same thing. What animal am I least afraid of? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a really hard question.
Well, Rob, you asked it, so you have to go first.
Actually, Sarah asked it. So Sarah, please comment and tell us what your answer to this question would be. What am I least afraid of? I feel like, what is it? Is it pandas? Like they don't even have like the motivation to go and procreate. So I feel like, that's, wouldn't be that afraid of.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Can I wear anything? Can I prep at all?
No, you're dropped in your street clothes into, let's just say,
Okay.
in an arena, and you're fighting 50 of these things.
So I guess for me, manatees are the least thing. That's the least thing I'm afraid of. They're just so round. Yeah, I would be perfectly fine. I'm trying to think of just like really rude animals. I think I'm gonna go with geese.
Geese can be
I think I would-
mean. 50 of them?
Bro,
It's
you do not want to fight 50 geese, my man.
well, okay. All I'm saying is that like I don't want to fight an animal that I don't generally just want to kill just on a daily basis.
It's got to be personal.
It's got to be personal, right?
What's my
And-
motivation for fighting these 50 animals?
Exactly, right. This is not, and geese just really make me upset. So I think I'm gonna go with geese. And if I lose, hey, I died by 50 geese.
Did
You know,
geese
it's-
do something to you? Like
They
when you were
pooped all
younger?
over his
They bite.
lawn.
Oh, they do to me?
Yeah.
They just like rushed me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think
figured.
I was near a one of their nests, and they kind of just like, and they're just sassy, and they poop everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't have an animal you hate?
Geese are up there.
Geese are
honestly.
up there for sure. That's a good one. It just wasn't the question. Incidentally, I think the animal I'm least afraid of after serious contemplation is goldfish.
That's fair.
That is fair. Manatees are pretty big.
Can I say my dog? Does that count as an animal? Or is that just a cop out?
You want to
Oh,
beat
it's
your
definitely a
dog?
cop out.
No,
Might be a
like
cop.
least afraid of. Oh no, I could not. If like 50 of my dogs were wanting to fight me, I'd be dead.
Yeah, you would.
I
I've
think
seen what that dog looks like when he sees a squirrel.
it's true. I think
Your OV.
for my 50, there's these little small groundhogs that are in North Dakota, and they're suicidal. So I feel like if I took on 50 of them, they would just start fighting each other because they just run out and run the truck. No worry about whatsoever. And yeah, they're small, like maybe a little bigger than a mouse, but I think I could take on 50 of them.
50 lemmings.
Basically.
Stand by a cliff, you'll be fine.
That's what I was just thinking. If like for fighting 50 of them, just standing by.
You guys are not thinking
But-
big. You guys are not thinking
Well,
big.
yeah, because I know my limits.
I just
You guys-
want to win.
you put
I want to
stars.
win, and I want it to be like
entertaining.
I don't. I want to. No, I don't want it to be entertaining. I want it to be a blowout.
I don't want to be
Just a
known as
bloodbath.
I don't want to be known as the guy that died from 50 geese.
I mean, the chances of you dying are going to be hard. You might lose an eye, but eye patches are cool. But honestly, like you're gonna look at this massacre. Are you gonna feel good about yourself?
Yeah,
No, you're not. Unless you're a murderer. Unless you're a psychopath.
I mean,
Guy killed.
I
if they were
survived.
actively trying to attack you, I feel like, and you beat them all, I'd be impressed. I don't know.
you survived.
Yeah, man.
I'd be
I
like,
like-
"Would they just do that.
Here's the thing: mice. Me stomping 50 mice is the equivalent damage to the overall mice population of the world as me like throwing out a penny is to the U.S. Mint. That's not a big deal. There's plenty more. It's not like I'm doing serious damage to the mouse population.
Seamus, what's your thoughts on all this?
The animal that I'm least afraid of would probably be chipmunks because they always run away from you and they're just kind of cute little things. Then 50. What 50? I mean, I feel like can't imagine. Maybe certain types of cats. If I had to fight 50 of them.
Ooh, I don't
Like
know.
kittens.
Those claws.
Yeah,
Specifically?
kittens. That'd be easy enough, right?
Oh my gosh.
Just
Psychopath.
a whole pack of newborn kittens, and Seamus is just punting them.
Curb stomping them.
Yo, there goes our 9% of female. Good lord.
The only reason why I say that is my cat just walked up.
I could take him.
Yeah,
I could take him 49 more.
exactly.
Honestly, I might rather fight 50 geese than 50 cats.
That'd be kind of brutal.
Easily.
So I feel like with a goose, it's going to be more. You could like grab its head and use it to fight off other geese. But a cat, like,
That's what I was
true.
thinking.
I don't know. I don't know about a cat.
It
I
would
don't
look super cool too. It doing it.
Would it though? I don't know.
Are chickens normally aggressive?
Depends on the chicken,
Which-
I think.
I mean, I've played Zelda. You don't want to mess with a group of them.
Yeah.
Second video game reference.
I was going to say, everything I know about animal husbandry is based off video games.
Where they call
Oh
the chickens
God.
by the sound they make. Cuckoo.
Well, if you guys want to ask this question, be sure to comment on one of our social medias. And this week, we're going to talk about our top 3 previous jobs. And that can be least favorite, that can be most favorite, or it can be somewhere in between. So I'll start us off. My second to worst job, I would say, and this one's probably, I don't know if it's gonna be on Mike's list, but it's oddly enough, spoiler alert, it's both jobs I work with Mike are my 2 least favorite jobs, so I don't know if there's any correlation there. But it's be working at this automotive place in a warehouse in Metro Detroit.
Whoa. I'm sorry. Well, first of all, you have that worse than the other job or you have that better than the other job
Yeah.
we worked together?
Yeah, so the reason why, basically this job was you pick things up from one crate and move them into the other. It's definitely a lot more labor intensive than the other job, but after a while your body gets used to it, and then you're kind of getting a little toned and all
That's
that
true.
from lifting all these heavy parts. But the one thing that I think is better about that job is I'm an introvert, and I did not have to talk to like anyone during that job. I just put in my headphones, go in the warehouse, and just crank out these parts, and then I'm done by, 3 or 4, and that's it. Don't have to talk to anyone. Lunch, sometimes Mike would talk to me, if he felt like it, or sometimes he'd go and run off and do other things. But yeah, it wasn't the best job. It was cold in that warehouse. Sometimes it was dimly lit, and I swear there's this one forklift driver that was blind and was trying to run me over sometimes.
Yeah, so I also worked there. My first day, so I got that job because, I don't know, man, 4 months into being married, Mackenzie comes up to me and goes, I think she was picking me up from work. And I get in the car and she's bawling her eyes out. I was like, hey, whoa, hey, what is wrong? And she was like, I think I'm pregnant. And I was like, I need to get a real job. Okay, we can do this. And that was the first full-time job that somebody offered me. I was like, I'll take it. I showed up the first day. And they're like, all right, you're going to take these car jacks out of the cardboard box and you're going to put them into the plastic box. It's like, that's it. And they're like, that's the whole job. So 8 hours, just car jacks, left to right, left to right, left to right. I was convinced there was like heroin or something in these car parts. So I was like, there's no way this is a real job. I'm moving them from one box to another. Turns out Ford is just that lazy that they will pay a company so that they don't have to deal with the cardboard. It's a real thing. But yeah, it sucked. Rob, you didn't work there in the summer, did you?
No, I didn't. I got another job elsewhere
Oh my
that paid
gosh.
better, so I did that.
Woo. It was so hot in the summer. No air conditioning. Just sun was like pouring in through the windows. It would get just unbearable. We had big fans that we'd try to set up, but everybody there had such bad attitudes. They'd get in like actual fights over who got which fans. And
Not even the fans.
yeah.
I remember one time the 2 guys got in a fight. I
Oh
don't
my
remember
gosh,
what,
those
yeah.
2. Nothing. They just hated each other. It was the craziest place I've ever worked. The 2 of them would be screaming like full tilt, just losing their minds at each other because one of them looked at the other wrong, and they'd be going at it. Just slurs that I'm uncomfortable with, and I'm pretty cool with most words. Yeah, not just absolute nincompoops. Hated those guys. It was wild. That
I call
place
that a
was
show.
miserable.
Was that your number
Well,
one?
and that's no, it was my number 2.
Okay.
I have a job I liked more than I disliked that job.
Okay.
But it was definitely my number 2. It was my number 1 worst job, but it was my number 2 slot.
Yeah.
Redeeming qualities. Once I got on the forklift, they paid me well.
You got to listen to
that was
music
about it.
or audiobooks the whole time?
I did listen to an insane amount of audiobooks while I was there. That was really nice.
And
But yeah, just so stressful, so physically demanding. It was either physically demanding or mentally demanding. And the mentally demanding actually was worse, I thought, than the physically demanding. It was rough.
Yeah, see, I never got up to anything besides moving things from boxes. So it was all just physically demanding. I just shut my brain off when I was there. But the one thing I liked that I wish more jobs did is you had one task in the morning, one task in the afternoon. Once you were done with that, you could just sit and collect your paycheck and all that. Or you could do more jobs for overtime. And I'm very goal oriented. So if you tell me get this done, I will get those done as quickly and as most efficiently as possible. and then I'll just, do extra stuff or whatever. So for me, having those numbers really kept my brain going.
That was really sweet. I actually, in terms of what my final paycheck was, I got like a $2 or $3 raise when they moved me up to forklift, and my paycheck barely changed because I did so much overtime every single day when I was moving parts that it was like, oh, now I'm just working all 8 hours on the forklift, and the raise just covers all the overtime I was making. So I was like, I literally got to the point where I was like, oh, cool. I'm just sitting here gaining weight instead of working out and super stressed out. Oh my gosh, absolutely hated that place. But the boss was pretty cool.
Yeah, she didn't really care about much. And depending on what you got, I would say some days were a lot better if you didn't get those stupid jacks.
Yeah. Those jacks in the middle, those were worse than when I started too. Because when I started, they were a little bigger, and so you didn't have to move as many, but two, you could get even though it doesn't make sense that they were bigger, you could get a better hand grip on them, so you could move like 4 at a time easily, as opposed to like, oh man, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's possible to explain to somebody who didn't do that job just how awful that place was.
It was the literal commercial. I picked things up and put them down.
Yeah, that was it. Also, everyone around you was just a madhouse.
That's fun for me.
It got old after a couple of years. The first 2 years, I enjoyed it. About year 3, I was like, I'm so sick and tired of listening to these two yell at each other.
That's true. Just to wrap it up, I will say probably the reason why it isn't my number one is I was there for like 2 or 3 months before I got a better job. And what's crazy is like that might not sound like a lot of time, but there was already like 4 or 5 people that had started working after I did and left before I did. Like
the turnover was outrageous.
Yes, there were some people that they would come in the morning, would not see them again after they left for lunch. They just got right there.
Literally, you were better than 33% of the people if you made it to the end of your first day. I was there 3 years, and I was the 3rd longest tenured person on the floor.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that is a crazy turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was record breaking.
Yeah, and like I've worked in restaurants, and I was like, this makes restaurants look stable. It was wild.
Well, most jobs, like, they weren't hired out by the company. You had to work there. What was it, like 6 months? Then the actual company itself would hire you, but it was all the
It was 90 days through the temp agency. And it was because their turnover was so high, it wasn't worth it to hire people indirectly.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
Through a temp agency. Seamus, what's your number 3? What do you got for us?
My number 3 is actually very similar to your guys's, but not quite as crazy as it sounds. I worked at a factory creating auto-dimming mirrors for cars, like rear view and side view mirrors. And that would probably be the worst job I ever had, just because it was so monotonous, and I am not a monotonous person, and I desperately crave
variety.
Variety, thank you. Variety.
Yeah, I get it.
For everyday things in my work. And so just sitting there or standing there doing the same thing every day for, 8 to 10 hour days for like overtime, and working on the weekends because it was during COVID. So you were standing there wearing a mask.
Oh, yeah.
Yikes.
Doing the warehouse work is bad. Doing it in a mask is a lot worse.
Yeah. And it's nice because I listened to like a ton of podcasts and like a ton of music, but it was also like, I felt like insanity. Where it was just like, I'm going in today, maybe something different will happen today. Nope. Okay. I'm expecting different results, but it's always the same. You just get a wide variety of people when you go to factory work, because factory work is open for like anyone could do it. So it was cool, like meeting like all the different people that brought, but also like sometimes it could just be like a mesh of different opinions that might not always agree. But yeah, mostly it was just that monotonous thing, and getting time off was very, very difficult at that place. That was probably my worst. I haven't had too many like awful jobs, so it's hard to like really stay, but I feel like I worked second shift there, and it was just hard for me to wait or get out of work and it be like pitch dark, then me go to sleep, wake up, and just go immediately to work again.
Mm-hmm. Is second shift like what time is that?
Oh, let's see if I can remember. I remember I'd get out at like 11ish, so maybe like 2 to 11.
Okay.
Or 2 to 10. This was a few years ago. So it was a very odd time for me. I remember I'd always like, Lucian would know, I'd always call him during when I'd go get Culver's at like 10 o'clock at night. Because that would be like my second meal for the day, and be like, and I'd just, it was a
It's like,
very
Seamus,
interesting
what do you
time.
what are you doing, man? It's like, I'm at Culver's. Like, you were in Culver's yesterday.
Hey, don't be knocking
Seamus, do
me.
you
Yeah.
feel comfortable talking about that? Do you feel comfortable talking about that girl?
So I was talking to Lucian about it because like I was working there for quite a while, and I was just like, okay, my last day's coming up. There's this girl that I talk to occasionally. Like, should I ask her out? And like Lucian and I just kind of went back and forth, and he would hype me up, and I'd be like, okay, my last day's today. I'm just gonna do it, just ask her out. So I go up to her and I'm just like, hey, we've talked a bit. You want to go out sometime? And she's just like, oh, I'm married. And I was just like, oh, cool. Okay, bye. I was just
me
like,
too.
thank God,
See ya.
it's my last day.
All right, is it my turn?
It is.
It is your turn.
Yo, awesome. I was gonna have a whole spiel. Nah, I don't got a spiel. All right, cutting lawns was my first job I ever. Hey, it's a good job. So my dad owned a landscaping company called Grass King, and I think I was like around 10 or 12 when I started cutting lawns. And so I have this like really pointless skill, and I can make a lawn look really, really good. So yeah, I did that all throughout my life until I went to college, and then I dropped out of college, and then I worked that job for another 2 years. During those 2 years was one of the hardest times in my entire life. My dad's business grew crazy to the point where we were cutting, and I was going to do the math, but I think you guys can do math faster than I can. We were cutting 30 lawns a day, 5 days out of the week, 8 months out of the year, and I don't know how many lawns that is.
1,200 lawns.
We were cutting a ton of lawns.
Dang.
More than that, because that's a
and we were sun up to
150
sundown.
150 yeah,
A week.
800, then another 400.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a butt ton of lawns.
It's a butt ton of lawns. It is insane. And then it was a 3-man crew for the first year. And then the second year, my dad worked this guy so hard that he had a heart attack, and he had
Yikes.
to
Oh my
stop
gosh.
working. I have trained in the college level for 3 years, and I've never been more tired in cutting lawns sun up to sundown than I've ever been. It was the most challenging thing I've ever had to do. But the good parts about it is I got to be outside, which I love being outside. I got to work with my dad. My dad was just a very funny guy when he wanted to be. Sometimes when like lawns, he was very open about how crappy I was about cutting lawns sometimes. And that was like a lot. But he would try to make it a joke, and sometimes it was funny. Like the first time I cut, so I have hearing problems because I never wore any ear protection the whole time I used to cut lawns until like my last year. When I started wearing headphones, we had to do signals with each other to talk about, like, to say what we're doing. And so blowing would be this super inappropriate signal that we would do with each other. I'm just going to let the audience figure that one out. Cutting would be just like the scissors. It wouldn't be anything crazy. But bag, so we would used to have to leave, we would leave not trash bags, but lawn bags everywhere. But sometimes we'd have to take the lawn bags because they were old people and they couldn't grab it. So we would literally be in the middle of like cutting lawns, touching our like nut sacks to symbol, you need to go grab the bag. And I just like, I have great memories of just picturing that there's somebody just like staring out of their window, watching this lawn company just sexually just like motion to each other. Just
They're
like different
blowing
things.
and they're grabbing bags and they're cutting hair.
Uh,
I can just imagine this old lady like looking through the window, like oh my lord.
yeah.
Elliot, you gotta come see what the kids are doing.
They're going crazy.
I didn't realize you were cutting cutting lawns in the South.
You never know.
I'm gonna say like I feel like I learned everything, and I feel like I learned something in every job I've done. And I think the biggest thing I learned was how to talk to people and how to talk to like angry people and how to deal with confrontation. I am so on the scale of like wanting to deal with confrontation and not, I don't like it at all, and I get real weirded out when people want to get mad at me. But my father just like, he handled it so well. When people were mad, he would always like, if they started yelling, he would just be like, okay, I'm an adult and you're an adult. Let's talk to each other like adults. And he would, it was like a Jedi mind trick that he would always just like old lady in a muumuu coming out with a frying pan, screaming at the top of her lungs, and he would just like wave his hand, and they would be perfectly fine.
Probably
And
mad
then there was
at
another
the
lady named
gestures
Cheryl.
you're saying.
Maybe it's possible, or they were into it.
Oh,
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is that there was a lady named Cheryl that was in her 60s, no, like in her 70s, 80s, actually. And we would always cut her lawn, and she would invite us into the house. And she was just living alone. She was very lonely. I think she only got to see her kids maybe like once a month. And so she was very, very lonely. But my dad took time out of the day to spend time with this lady. And she passed away a couple years ago, but she would always have the hard candies. She would try to give us buttermilk because she was a pretty avid drinker of buttermilk. And just buttermilk on an August hot day just does not mix well. So I never really took that in, but not that good. My dad really took the opportunity to really show love to his customers, and I appreciated that a lot. And I feel like I try to do the same. All right, round number 2. Fight.
Hold on. I actually haven't done my number 3 yet.
Oh, sorry. You just talk so much.
I do.
Shots
Well,
fired.
Rob brought up my number 2. It's the it'll seem like I disappear for the middle act. It'll all balance out.
It's a joke. I appreciate you talking.
I appreciate you appreciating my talking. You can't see it, but I'm giving you a loving smile.
Ew. Continue.
Yeah, man, you asked for this bit. This bit continues. So it wasn't actually a name. My first job with a paycheck was just building fences. I still to this day don't know if it was my best job or I know it wasn't my worst job. Like, I don't know which side to put it in, because on one hand, I learned so much. I know it's kind of cliche, but like the gratification of finishing a job and seeing what you've built was super cool. Plus, like, construction workers do not get enough credit for how smart they are, just because a lot of time they're just big guys that are just, hulking around and they're all sweaty and dirty. But like some of the tricks they came up with for like, when it comes to like finding levels and like how to fix things on the fly, was just really impressive. So it was a weird job, but I didn't like it when I was doing it, but I'm really glad I did it now. And somebody asked me after my first week, they're like, how's the new job? I was like, well, the first day was kind of rough because I didn't know what to expect. And then the second day was kind of rough because I knew exactly what to expect. And it was just hard work, but like so many good lessons that I took from it. And so not a lot to say, but definitely one that has stuck with me.
Do you think you're going to have your kid work when they're like of age? Like you're going to try to promote that?
I mean, I think if she wants to get a job, like, are you talking like when she's still in high school?
Yeah. I believe I worked a little bit younger than I should have, child labor laws.
yeah, 12 is a little young.
Yeah. But I mean, I see both ways. Like, I think it's important for your kid to get a job, but also like your kid is only going to be a kid for so long.
Yeah, it's weird because that was my dad's argument. He was like, look, man, you're only going to be in high school once. And then I got into college and I was like, dude, all my friends have a savings account. Why the heck have I not been working? Like, I have no money to spend. So I was kind of annoyed that he didn't have me work. But knowing how I was at that age, I probably would have resented him if he had me work. So I don't know that how I felt about the situation is the best guide. So I'd probably let her, if she wants to go try and get a job, great, dude, go get a job, learn some lessons. If she wants to just be in high school, cool, be in high school. There's plenty of lessons to learn there too. So I don't think I have really a hard and fast opinion on that one way or the other yet.
I didn't get my first
What do you get?
paycheck job until I graduated high school and I was at camp. Like my mom didn't let me get a job in high school.
Did you ask? Did you want one? Did you ask for one?
I did, but it was also like, hey, if you get a job, you're going to have to start paying for gas, insurance, and all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe I'll just take this free handout.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't want the responsibilities that come with it.
I think I was like 15 or 16, my first job. Or I did two things. I was like a janitorial. I was a janitor at my uncle's construction business building. And then I also worked at American Eagle.
Ooh.
What'd
I
you
didn't know
do?
about it.
At American Eagle, I just was a store associate. Just folded things very poorly and put them on racks and put them on shelves on the wall.
Yeah.
I was not good at that job, I feel like.
Yeah, you're not explaining it well, so it makes me think you didn't know what the you were doing.
Basically.
Yeah, at REI, whenever there's clothes to fold, I just hand them off. I'm like, you guys don't want me to do this. They didn't have like the board. They have a folding board you could use, and I still would butcher it.
I definitely preferred working the cash register. I was just like, can I do that today, please? Don't
So-
let me fold cold clothes.
Dylan, who you all know in high school, was a model for it was either American Eagle or Abercrombie. So his job was to just walk around the store shirtless.
That sounds like an
Makes so much
Abercrombie
sense.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't know. I didn't have the money to go to either of those places. See, 5 minutes ago when my dad didn't let me have a job or encouraged me not to get a job. So we were shopping at Value World. Yeah, I was always so jealous. It's like, how the heck are you just, how did this fall into your lap? You just get to walk around and be hot and people pay you for it? This is outrageous.
Oh, was he 18?
Definitely not.
Yikes.
Oh my gosh. That's a little weird, isn't it?
Mhm.
In hindsight, very much so, yes.
Surprised his parents
That's
let him do
crazy.
that. Or did he make up a story?
You know, I never thought to ask. That was the point in our lives where do our parents know? You didn't even bother asking because 90% of the time we weren't telling them. So,
That's fair.
like, it was never a question that I think once. The only time that question would have left our lips was it was like, oh crap, do our parents know?
What type of fences did you
Fair
build?
enough.
Was it like privacy fences, picket fences?
Yeah.
All around?
I did basically one of every fence by the end of it, but for the most part, it was composite privacy fences.
Oh, screw composite. Those boards are so effing heavy.
Yeah, and then we did a lot of the plastic, like the white ones where it's like you just drop those. I loved doing I don't remember what they were called, but you just put it almost felt like PVC, but it was definitely a little weaker than that. You just put the posts in, and then they just all clip together. So it'd just be like post, crossbar, and then just like boop, 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 boop. You could just set the vertical slats in, just click, 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 click. And then all you had to do is trim that last one to fit. And we could throw a whole fence up in a day. There was this guy, I was working for this guy at church. I forget his name. We were never tight. I just needed a job and my dad was the pastor. So it was like, I gotcha. I need somebody to work. And we didn't have the best working dynamic. And then I worked for Jake for a while because he was that guy's boss. And then I ended up working for this dude, Tony, because he basically had me work on that guy's crew because we lived down the street from each other more or less. And so Tony could just pick me up on the way to whatever job. And then I got a week off from Jake to go counsel, I think I was counseling juniors. And then, oh gosh, Bubba and Shirley were like, hey, if you want to come and like camp youth week, like they asked me if I was going to camp my second year at youth week. I was like, I don't have money for it right now. And they were like, you can just come. I don't know if they paid for it. I don't know if they just snuck me in. I don't know what happened. I'd never even thought to ask what the logistics were. But they were just like, just stay for youth week. And I was like, okay. And I got back and Jake was like, no, you don't have a job. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess that's fair. I did just say I was going to be gone for a week and then was gone for 2. But I just called up Tony directly. And I was like, hey, man, you got work that needs to be done. And so he essentially hired me as his own subcontractor. And me and that dude just worked. We had such a good rhythm. We'd show up to a site, place our posts, roll back to the site from the day before, throw up our cross beams, and like basically he was like, look, I will pay you for a day as long as we get one of each half done. And so we'd get in and out in like 6 hours and he'd pay me for 8. It was very similar to the working the parts plant, because it was just you show up, you knock it out, except they let you go home when your work was done.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and Tony just crushed it. And then I moved to Kalamazoo and I never saw Tony again.
So my number 2 is a place where I also work with Mike, and that was at and I absolutely hated it.
Welcome to
Yep. Well, I was a host, so I was like, "Hi, welcome." And then you get the dumb kids who just like, laughing because I said the Vine reference, and I'm just like, "Screw you guys." And the worst part about being the host is for the most part, you get all the crap the servers do, but you get paid minimum wage. So a lot of people think that I have, that happens with servers too, like that we have control of their food and stuff. And they will just come up and they'll complain. Like, I'm sorry, once I seat you down, that's basically my job's over. So I don't know why you're complaining to me. And people just don't understand how restaurants work. They'll be like, oh, there's some open tables over there. I'm like, that section's closed. We can't just go and start seating you there. And I just, man, as an introvert, it was just so draining every shift. I had to like hype myself up just to go to work. And then like, I would just feel dead after every shift. And I think if everyone worked in the restaurant, like there's a mandatory, you have to work in a restaurant, I think it'd be different because people just don't know how stressful a restaurant job is. And I remember I was talking to our boss. First of all, he thought I hated it there, which I did, to be fair, but I'm also just not that animated of a person. So it's like, man, you just, you're bringing, I think you're bringing the vibe down. Like, well, okay, I'll try to work on that. But I was hoping I'd get to, move back to the kitchen because I wanted to be a line cook and everything. I thought that sounded like a good gig, whether it was or not. I don't know. But he's like, you know what? We want you to be a server. I'm like, you just said I bring down the vibes just like because I don't have any expression in my face. Why do you want me to be a server? And he just kept on pushing for me to keep on training to be a server. I'm like, no, I don't want this. Thankfully, I ended up leaving to go work at camp the next summer. But oh my gosh, they kept bringing me back. And it was one of those jobs where I don't know if you guys had this, where like you'll dream about it and you like wake up in a sweat, be like, oh, I didn't sit at this table or whatever. I don't know if you guys have had that, but I know those are really the bad job is when I wake up thinking I'm at work, like I'm missing something. And not a fan of working at a restaurant.
Yeah, restaurant anxiety is one of the worst things I've ever experienced.
And I will say though, when Mike, myself, and another friend of ours all worked the same shift, those were enjoyable, which is kind of what got me to go back to the restaurant, go to that job, is because Mike and this other person from church that we hung out with, we were working, and the 5 times it happened, that was nice, but that was a mean 10-month stint. I'll never forgive Mike for it.
Well, and I felt like that's fair. That's totally fair. I got you both of your 2 least favorite jobs. But even the shifts we all work, it'd be like I would be waiting tables, you'd be hosting, and then Lucas would be in the dish tank. And so it's like we barely got to interact, the 3 of us anyway. It was like there were 5 magical minutes throughout a 7-hour shift.
Well, at first it was nice because Lucas was originally also a host, so we would sometimes rarely get to work together at the host stand. And I will say the one nice thing about if there's 2 hosts is I would just go on bus tables the whole time because you don't have to deal with as many people.
I see. It's funny. I loved being a host when I was there, just because by the time I was doing hosting, I had done so many other positions that I was able to communicate with everybody else in the restaurant. And so I was actually able to be really efficient because people knew when I was talking to them that I knew what they did, which is ridiculous because I was saying all the same things that other hosts would say, but they're like, oh, Mike knows what he's talking about. And so they would actually listen when I would say exactly what other hosts would say to them. And so I really enjoyed that position, but I kind of had it easier than you did.
Did either of you guys, Seamus and Lucian, you guys work at a restaurant?
God, no. There's no way I would work at a restaurant.
I worked at Culver's, but I was in the back. I was a fryer, and that was its own kind of monster because Culver's is a popular place.
Yeah,
fry cook it is such a hard job. I worked fry cook for a week and a half. Maybe 2 weeks. I think I got to 2 weeks. And I came up to my boss and I said, listen, you can have my 2 weeks. At that point, I was cross-trained in 9 things. I was like, you can have my 2 weeks as a cook, right? I'll work as a cook for 2 more weeks. And then you could just stop scheduling me as that forever. Or you could have my 2 weeks outright. I will not continue to do this. And if I have to quit, then I'll quit. So it's like, all right, fine. I get it. Just give me 2 weeks. And I was like, all right, great. But I felt really bad because I'd never quit anything that fast. And then I was talking to one of the other servers, and she was like, "Yeah, my son, he worked in that exact same spot that you were for 1 week before he quit." And I was like, "Okay, well, you're a small little lady. How tough can your son really be? This doesn't make me feel any better." And she goes, "And he swears that's what prepared him to be a Marine." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's how tough he can be." I actually feel much better about this now.
That's such a good story. I did not expect it to turn that way.
Neither did I. I was like, oh, wow, actually that I lasted twice as long as the Marine. I must be made of something special.
You're the few and strong. Good job.
Yeah, it was. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think my least favorite things were the major rushes. Although I kind of got used to it after a point, and cleaning on Sunday mornings or whatever, where you just deep clean everything. It was just oh my gosh. It was always interesting because you had to put down enough fries to get through a rush, but you can't put down too many fries, otherwise they'll get old and you have to throw them out, and then that's a waste of money.
Dude, I'm literally getting steamed up just hearing you talk about the mindset of this position again. It makes me angry just hearing somebody else talk about it.
It was a time. I won't speak of it anymore.
You were talking, I was like, why does my lip hurt? Oh, it's because I am biting down on it.
I will say the one good thing about working at after you work there, I think it was 3 months, it was 90 days, you got a card that gave you 50% off all the food. So definitely ate a lot of during those days, but it was nice. And then you would always the good friend whenever you go out with people, oh, we gotta go out with Rob, so you'd always get invited to places. I think that's why I was invited to go out to eat so much with friends, not because they wanted to, talk to me, but because I'd get them the 50% off discount.
Oh my.
You never took me to.
I was quite popular while I worked at. I noticed that too.
You were at Concordia still. I think that's before we really started to groove. Yeah, because that would have been before. No, that would have been the year after we senior staff together. But I feel like we haven't. All right, I think Seamus, you're up next.
Okay, number 2. I'd say my number 2 would be one of my most recent job, which was working as a wedding videographer / editor. Probably like one of my favorites, just because it's like, I mean, it had its downsides. Because me about being monotonous, working weddings every day can get monotonous. Who knew? But it was also very cool. I absolutely loved filming them because it's just like you're with these people on their like special day. And like everybody's just kind of got this like happiness to them. I think there was only one wedding out of like the 50 plus I had done. I don't know how many I've done actually. That like really seemed like had a different energy, but they were always just like excited for you to be there. Just this high vibe that was always just almost like intoxicating to be around. And it like also what I really appreciated about that job was it taught me how to handle like when there were situations where it was just like kind of high stress or we were working on a very tight timeline. Just really taught me how to work around those, like work around issues very quickly in order to get what we needed to get for the wedding films that we provided. And yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, I learned a lot working that job. Yeah, it was pretty enjoyable.
Nice. What is the craziest thing you saw go down at a
I was
wedding?
just about to ask that.
See, that's kind of there weren't too many crazy things. I don't know. There just wasn't. I can think of maybe 2 like things that stand out. One of them was like this client had the bride's father built like this whole glass like building just for the reception. So it was a pretty wealthy client, and he also owned a bunch of smoke stores. So during the reception, it was just foggy.
Great for filming.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Special effects.
But that was probably like one of the like, wow, this is a vast amount of wealth that I saw.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I guess I think one of the craziest things that I saw like that was filmed that I wasn't a part of, I wasn't there that day, was like this best man was just like so drunk, like giving his speech. He was just like, I can't believe I'm letting you go to her. We're supposed to be with me. We're best friends forever. Like he was just so completely wasted. And
I don't know about just friends on that one.
yeah, he was so like in love with the groom that he was just like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, and it's just like, oh no, this is a speech that you're giving in front of how many people? So yeah, those are probably the 2 craziest
I always
things.
thought it was gonna be you and me.
Yeah, basically.
Remember the locker room? Do you remember forever? Bulldogs forever.
You remember that trip we took up north, the cabin? But yeah, I feel like I don't know if it's like, yeah, I don't know. Things never got like too insanely crazy, which is kind of funny because like you hear like a stereotypical like, I feel like a lot of people ask that question, like, what's the craziest thing? But I can't really think of too many.
No one tripped walking down the aisle or anything?
Not during ones that I filmed. We did catch one in slow motion that I wasn't there, where a bridesmaid stepped on the train through the bride's head back. It was in slow motion. I think we okayed it with her for like putting it on social media.
All right, my number 2 is the worst job I've ever had in my entire life. I was the dishwasher for my college for like 3 months, and it was the most soul-sucking thing I've ever done in my life. I did it so I tore my ACL playing football, and after I tore my ACL, I got engaged to my beautiful wife, and I thought that all I needed to do was buy the ring and that she would take care of the rest. I just had to show up in my tux with my groomsmen and she would have everything planned. And then months go by and nothing gets planned. And then she looks at me dead in the eye. She's like, "Are we going to get married?" And I was like, yeah, we're gonna get married. She's like, what money?" I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. I just assumed he would figure it out.
It came with the ring.
Yeah. So I had to get a job, and the first job that was offered to me was a dishwasher on Sundays. I figured out my one non-negotiable. There's a ton of non-negotiables that I have, but it's definitely on the top 5 is that I have to see the sun when I'm working. If I don't get to see the sun on my whole shift, I can't do the job. That is non-negotiable for me. I get real sad when I don't get to see the sun. And I also don't like working on Sundays. It's a big no-no for me. So yeah, very boring. People were very rude to me. If they didn't like the food that I didn't make, they would wind scrape their plates off, or they would throw food in the silverware container. And so I'd have to like fish out chicken nuggets while I was trying to clean out the spoons and the forks. I found out how the food was made in the college, and it just made me really sick and really sad that I used to eat there. I found out how the sauces was made, and I was not a fan. One dumb thing I did that I think is funny is that I was listening to my headphones, and I didn't clean my ears out when I was young in college, and so I decided to put my headphones in the dishwasher because I thought it would clean it up real good.
Interesting.
And completely melted my headphones. Completely melted them.
What do you know?
They were clean though. What do you know? I didn't know how hot they got. Honestly, I thought it was a big brain move.
Is it like the Hobart, like at
But
camp?
not.
You know, the ones you slide down.
Yeah, like the real big one. Yep.
Oh
the
my
real big one.
gosh.
Yeah, dude. I'm sorry. Don't judge me. I made a mistake. I used to not clock out for lunch, and I did that for like a month, and then they caught me, and my paycheck went down dramatically, and I was like, this is not worth it. Not a good time. I also would come in with a pile of dishes, and that was just soul sucking to see like stacks and stacks of dishes as soon as I clock in. I think, and this is my philosophy, but I recommend that everybody, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, I recommend working a crappy job because you figure out real soon what kind of work that you might want to do, or going back into school, because that crappy job really motivates you. That's my personal
Takes some
opinion.
of us 12 years, but I do agree with the concept.
Yeah, definitely that sunny thing. Like working in the factory, like there was no windows. Like you couldn't tell the time. You were just in there for 8 hours, and then you get out and you're like, oh, it's pitch black. What just happened?
I think it's interesting that you did me and Lou are very different people, so it makes sense that we'd like different things. But I loved working dish tank shifts. I'd put in my headphones and I'd get in a rhythm, and I attacked that thing, and I had more downtime than almost any other dishwasher we had, because I was constantly just trying to stay. I wanted to be washing dishes faster than the dishes were coming in. Something about it, I just got in the groove, and I just zenned out, and I was just I was a dishwashing machine.
How many restaurants have you worked at, Mike? Do you have a count?
Okay, so I worked at Panera for less than 2 weeks before coming up to the boss and going, hey, I hate this job. Do you want 2 weeks, or can I just go? I worked at a Bravo Cucciano Italiano for a few months, and then I went to my number one. From there, after that job, I had an offer to work at an IHOP, but instead I chose a steakhouse that I worked at for 2 weeks before I decided to move back to the east side of Michigan, at which point I got a job at a place that made me sign a waiver saying I couldn't say anything bad about them on social media. So I'll stop talking about them now. And I think that was it.
Am I not supposed to talk bad about them?
Oh, I don't know if you signed a waiver or not, but I did. So
I don't remember.
And as such, they are not on my list.
I doubt is going to come hunt you down.
I don't know where.
I do too.
I don't
But there was a moment when I was working the dish tank. This is both one of the worst things I've ever said to someone's face, and also what I would consider one of the most brilliant uses of language I've ever come up with. But this particular person they wouldn't sort their plates, because there's square plates, there's rectangle plates, and there's circle plates. This is basic kindergarten level stuff here. and just wouldn't. I don't know what you had to do to get this person to sort their plates properly. But one day I just absolutely snapped and I said, "Hey, are you so selfish that you can't take the 3 seconds to put the circle with the circle and the square on the square? Or are you too stupid to tell the difference?" And that person never spoke to me again, but I got absolutely no reprimand for it whatsoever. Like, several people watched it happen and all of them were just like, "I know how to put the circles on the circles." Like,
Yeah, it checks out. He doesn't know how to do it.
Kind of hilarious.
yeah, I was really proud of that, like that burn. But like in hindsight, I was like, "Oh, that was not the nicest thing I've ever said."
Hey, if it was at the one place we can't talk about, they weren't going to fire you because they're always short-staffed.
Right?
Did you wait? Am I crazy? Did you work at?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Is that number one?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
number
are
one.
we at
'Cause
number one?
Rob and I already covered my number 2, so right back around.
My number one is probably my favorite, like, non-professional job. That it's like a real job. And that was working at AMC right out of high school. It was technically it was after my first year of college, but working at the movie theater. I have so much fun memories. I mean, we got to see, as long as the theater wasn't packed, we could go see any movie we'd like for free. We could bring friends. The rule was two friends tops, but I think I've had up to 6 or something, like, friends in there, and they don't care. We go from one movie to the other. Sometimes we got to see movies a day or so before they came out. Like, I think the first 3 Hunger Game movies before they were released, the Avengers movies before it came out, saw the Star Wars Episode 7 before it was officially out. And as long as you were tight with the people in the back, you would get free popcorn and things like that. And we had like the exact opposite thing on the fryer. Seamus, you're saying like you don't want to make too many fries. There was one guy that whenever someone ordered one like little carton of fries, he would dump half of the frozen fries in there, just throw them in, put them on the side, and then everyone that was working behind the concessions, we just like go to the side and eat fries and everything. And I don't know how we didn't get caught. But yeah, he'd be like accidentally throwing extra mozzarella stick in there and all that. And believe it or not,
bro.
AMC had like the best smoothies. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but their blend.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, AMC had this really good blend of smoothies. And me and my friends like looked it up because we were thinking about buying some, but you can only buy them in like the huge bulk carton, like the whole huge bulk order. And so everyone that was making a smoothie, if it was a flavor they'd like, we'd accidentally make too much and all that. So we were bleeding the theater dry by everything. You know, we'd get popcorn and all that. But it was just it was a really chill job. If you're working box office, if it was slow, you could like basically do whatever you want. You could listen to music back there. My friend Drew played Skyrim because there's no one there on his laptop. I played some Pokemon. Like, people would do homework, and it was a really chill job. And I wish I went back to that job instead of going to the aforementioned restaurant that Mike convinced me to come to. But yeah, it's such a good first quote unquote real job. Like, if you're in high school or if you're just out of college, it's a very easy first job for the most part. If you can get with anything, if you can get the management to like you, then you can just cruise. My first month, they had this thing called the Stubs program. In my first month, I just sold them like hotcakes. I actually ended up getting Employee of the Month my first month working there. And then I would just basically, after my second or third month, I would stop selling it. They would like bring up the numbers and they would like chew everyone else out, but they never came after me and everything. So it was just a very, very chill and easy job. And for the most part, I mean, if people are mad at you about the movie, especially if they stayed the whole time, you'd be like, "Oh, sorry, if you didn't like the movie, I'm not going to refund you after you spent the whole 2.5 hours watching it, or 2 hours." And it's for the most part, it's really chill. Most people at the movies just want to go see a movie. If you want to know why concession stands cost so much, it's because that's where the theaters make their money. They don't make much money off of the ticket prices. So yeah. And popcorn is they make the most money off popcorn. Like, it's crazy just the amount of money they make off it. So I always get a large because that makes them the least amount of popcorn, and you can usually get free refills. So you're kind of double screwing them there. And it's not real butter. Fun fact.
Did you work by chance at the AMC Livonia?
I did.
So are you the reason that is the only theater in town that doesn't have the reclining seats now? Because you just bled them dry and they couldn't afford it?
I mean, that could be it. So at the time...
Is it your fault that is the worst theater in all of the Detroit area?
No, so it's funny. Originally, that theater was like the nice theater. Was Livonia? Yeah. And then other places started getting the reclining seats. But the reason why that theater doesn't have reclining seats is because it was built for the standard, like the old-fashioned movie theater. So the way it was just constructed and built, they would like take up, they don't have like a third of the seats left if they did those big chairs. So it just wasn't designed for it. At least that's what they said when that was starting to pick up and people would ask us.
From what I can tell, they're not even filling a third of the seats anymore. So
yeah.
Also, to be fair, AMC Fairlane is the worst.
Oh yeah, that's sketch.
It's the
I have never been to
place.
Fairlane. That's fair.
Oh, I would not recommend it. I took my wife there, and I was like, I'm gonna get my wife killed. This is not good.
I think there was.
Yeah, don't go.
I think it was failing. There was like shots fired in that area. Like you'd hear it every
Oh,
now and again. And another thing that was fun working for a chain, if you wanted to go see a movie like anywhere that still had an AMC, you just call up your manager and they would make a call so you can go see the movie for free wherever you were, as long as it was an AMC.
Oh, that's cool.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that. That's
nice.
really
So
cool.
The perks are really
That's a
nice
big bar,
compared to like mom and pop theaters. I know some of them, I think MJR, which is not more fun at. I think they only get they can only see a certain amount of movies a month. So maybe with the whole economy now, AMC is scaled back. Yeah, really fun, easy job. And for the Christmas parties, they would just like throw up Smash Bros in one of the movie theaters. You know, we just play video games on there, and that's always
awesome.
fun.
That's so
That's
cool.
awesome. They must have loved that too. Like the overhead's got to be basically zero on that.
Mm-hmm. They're easy. They just had they basically go get fried food, maybe some pizza like they already had in the back. Do all that and then just throw up Smash Bros. And I think they would do like tournaments and all that. Me and my friend won a doubles tournament there.
Nice.
Yeah, I have always wanted to work at a movie theater. It sounded like just the most fun job.
Yeah, just don't look underneath the seats if you're at a movie theater. We'd have the AMC sweep where, if it wasn't terrible, just sweep it underneath the chair and let the actual cleaning crew that comes in at night and deep cleans all the theaters, let them handle it. We're not always the best as ushers, which is what the cleaning crew was called at AMC, or the cleaning staff during the day.
Yeah, I was always confused by that title because I'm like, no one has ever once taken me to my seat.
Yeah, no, I think it's like if you
You're
have
just like putting your arm out, waiting for somebody to like
usher, please.
I'm blind. I'm blind.
Yeah, so they would have an usher at the front is usually who rips your ticket. They'll usually like swap out there every hour, and it's funny because I think we've talked about it in the past, but like people are like super scared they're going to get caught for taking stuff up in the movie theater, and I never knew anyone that cared about that policy. But yeah, so they'll go and just do a basic sweep and clean after every movie. They usually have like 10 minutes before the next movie starts. So you just you have a schedule, go do that. And when you don't have a movie, you just kind of chill and hang out. And yeah, really chill job as long as you have fun people to work with, which I also had another friend working there. So it was a great time.
Did they always have like someone who checks your ticket? Because like I know a few theaters that would sometimes do it and sometimes not.
Yeah, this theater, they always had someone doing it. And if there was an usher for it, guest services, which is also a piece of cake job, would go and stand and do that.
Gotcha.
The one downside I will say about working in a movie theater is they're open 365 days a year, and Christmas is like the busiest day for theaters, one of them, which I never understood.
Yeah.
Because my family just never did movies on Christmas, but I know it's big everywhere. So it's annoying I have to go work Christmas morning, but it's better than afternoon. I heard afternoon and evening, which is awful.
Oh, yeah. I suppose if you don't like your family, but you want to be around family at Christmas, movie theater is probably a pretty good call.
Yeah, that's fair.
You'll pick up a different family.
Yeah, my
At the
family
movie
used to
theater.
do that. I had a
No
family
disrespect,
that would
just
go for it.
something I'm not used to. So at first I was like, why are you guys here? Like, go be with your family. But yeah, I understand it's a big thing.
No, I never I didn't realize that was a thing either. Like I was probably in my early 20s before I was like, wait, why is this movie releasing on Christmas Day? And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. I'm the weird one. Understood.
It's my number one.
Okay, so I guess it's me. My number one, I don't know if this is a cop-out, but it's like what I'm doing now, which is freelance. Doing freelance like videography / editing is just pretty nice. It's something I've done for years, but as of recently, I've started doing it more full-time. And just being able to like choose who my clients are and like work with people who believe in what I do is like one of the best things. And people who know that I'm going to make good work for them and something we can like collaborate on is something that I really enjoy. Just recently, I worked with a theater doing promotional videos for them, an acting theater. And
Oh, cool.
they were just like, we're just going to let you do your thing. And even the photographer was just like, yeah, set up your lighting and we'll just run with it. And I was just like, you sure? Like, you've been doing this a lot longer than me. And she was just like, yeah, fine, whatever. Like, so we just went with what my idea was and we ran with it. And the results turned out really great. So it's very like interesting. What I really appreciate is having that direct contact with the client rather than having to go through a boss where, from when I've worked for bosses in the video field, it's like usually they have their own take on things. So you're not really doing what you want to do as more as what the boss would do, like the boss has their own style and you have your own style. Whereas this is just strictly my style rather than the boss's, where you can just be like unequivocally yourself, which is very fun, which really like helps you shine and learn what your strengths and weaknesses are. So I've really learned a lot over the years that I've been doing this. I've worked with like several different companies, like a brewery or a pharmaceutical company. So it's just like the possibilities are endless, which, as I've said before, the monotonous drives me nuts. So having this like variety is just something that I love so much. Just being able to try new things all the time. That's been my favorite thing.
That's awesome, man.
that's
Where
cool.
are you located at? Like, where are you working out of?
I'm located in Holland, so the west side of Michigan.
Okay, cool.
Well,
Were you gonna say something, Rob?
I was gonna say if we ever do film Trapped in a Gauchos, we'll have to call you up to film for us.
Sure. What is that?
What is Gauchos?
Ooh.
It was the steakhouse challenge where so there's like a fantasy football thing or like other challenges where like the loser has to stay in a diner for 24 hours and each pancake they eat knocks off an hour. And I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, but we were saying that like they should have that where every steak you have is like an hour or 30 minutes off your time because it's not open 24 hours, and like you just see how much like steak you can eat to get out of there and everything.
That would be actually pretty fun to watch.
Right.
So I would have to wear some sweatpants or something,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, got to get that room.
Mike says the plantains is key, so we'll have to see.
That's what I've been told. I haven't done any research for myself, but I hear that they help with digestion. And if nothing else, they placebo nicely for me. So
Exactly. Placebo always works.
have you ever done any work with Dylan? Because he's doing the same thing over on the east side here. He's been doing freelance videography for a long time, and he's mentioned working with a friend over on the west side every now and then. So I was like, no way. Yeah, I know you and Dylan have you're both camp guys, so I didn't know if maybe you had ended up being the friend he was working with on the west side or not. But
Yeah, I think I was a bit too young, I think, for Dylan.
yeah, because you were in my first juniors cabin, right?
I was.
Oh, shoot.
I was.
Yeah. No, me and Seamus go the farthest back.
The farthest back. Yes, we do.
And then you were also in what was my first time ever counseling Teen Classic. Like you walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 19 and I feel so old right now.
That's probably true. Oh gosh, yeah.
So it's super cool to see you're doing your own thing, man. That's so awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Him being a good counselor. So
Yeah, it was all me, man. It was 100%.
It was honestly all Mike.
All credit goes.
Who was
to
your
me.
co-Mike?
Was it in juniors Emmanuel?
No. Who was my first ever co-counselor / senior counselor? I honestly don't remember for either week.
Is it my turn?
It is.
I'm having a hard time picking between my current job and I feel like a job that completely changed my life forever. So
Technically, it was previous jobs, but I'm not going to hold you to that.
oh, is it previous jobs? Okay,
I'm not going to
cool.
hold you to that
All
too
right.
much.
No, it helps me make the decision, so I'll take it.
I mean, it
Also,
wouldn't be an
this was-
episode of the podcast if you didn't have one answer that totally broke the rules of the
You know what?
prompt.
That's a
So
good point. That's a good point.
But I want to know this life-changing job.
So it wasn't really a job; it was a volunteer. But I did it for multiple years, and so that's why I kind of consider it a job because I was getting Jesus points. So, and that's the best
Heavenly
currency.
cash. Yeah.
So my dad was a rock star, and he broke up with his band, and he was like, "I think I need Jesus," and so he found the church that I grew up in, and he was like, "Hey, you're coming to church," and I was like, "What is church?" Like I kind of knew what church was, but I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And he's like, "All right, when you come to church, you're going to serve." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he pretty much just voluntold me to work at the Sunday school. It was the weirdest thing because I didn't know anybody. The church that I was going to was probably the most people I've ever witnessed. Just doing one thing at a time. I feel like that's fair to say.
you played sports at
Yeah.
the collegiate level, and Life Church is the most people you've ever seen doing one thing at a time.
At the time, as a
It
ninth
was also
grader,
Concordia.
playing
yeah.
collegiate sport. Yeah. I was like in 8th and ninth grade.
Yeah, but
Um,
we choose to ignore
yeah.
where he played sports at a collegiate level when it suits our point. So
Yeah. Concordia wasn't really popping.
so anyway, most people you've ever
Most
seen. Oh, I apologize. Cut all of
people
that.
ever seen. Okay, let's say most people ever seen worship.
Ooh,
Most people ever seen like sing the same song together, and I was like, this is crazy. But it also felt like I was in like an actual concert, like a rock band. When I think of church back in
Mike
the
was
day, I
up
used
there
to think
shredding.
of like Mike was up there shredding. I was googly eyed. I was like, who is this child prodigy? Man, my jokes are not hitting today.
I mean, it made me laugh.
Oh, that's good.
Stick and roll, stick and roll.
Stick girl. Blah blah blah. Okay.
Made me laugh as well.
Wait, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
supposed to mute
so-
my mic when I laugh?
I don't think so. So my dad volunteered me to do Sunday school, and they put me in a room called reentry, where all the kids that already went to Sunday school, but their parents are serving the next service, would come to my room, and my job was to entertain them. And I hated those little bastards. I hated it. Could not stand it. All of them were very stuck up. They felt like they owned the church. It was terrible. But for some reason, I found joy after a while. I stuck it out. I really didn't know what else to do because I really never said no to my dad. So kind of just did whatever he told me to do. And I found my passion, and it's kids. And it's so weird that it went from these little bastards hitting me with knuckles, hitting me with wooden planks. They would have these wooden spoons, and they would knock me in the knuckles with it. And they thought it was the funniest thing. To me, like,
heck?
so reentry would get all the weird toys and things that were just ended up in people's garages that just ended up in reentry. And one of them was wooden eggs and wooden spoons, and the goal was to, balance the wooden egg on the spoon and
Okay.
go from wall to wall. But they thought it would be funny if they would sneak up on me and whack me in the knuckle with it. And
You know what this
is?
is? This is a blunt object.
It's not good. I don't understand how God works, but I couldn't see myself not working with kids. I don't really do it much with my job, but I still get to do it, and I get to work with kids at church, and I love it. It's who I am.
The Lord works in
I
mysterious
have a ton
ways.
of passion for it. Well, Laura works in mysterious ways. So that's why it's my number one. I hated it at first, and I ended up loving it. So I mean,
So
what I've learned. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, go. You're good.
Oh yeah. I mean, what I learned is sometimes you got to know when to quit, but sometimes you got to know when to stick it out. And I don't, and I think it's up to you to figure that out when it comes to jobs. But sometimes just there's a season, and then sometimes the job just sucks. And I think it's your responsibility to figure out if it's a season or if it just sucks. Management is probably the first thing to look at. If your manager sucks, your job's not going to get any better.
It's so wild to me that you had kids hitting your knuckles in reentry, because as one of the pastor's kids from Life Church, I was in what was essentially the beta phase of reentry. Like I was in the test run. Like I was in reentry early access way before it was called reentry. And we got in so much trouble all the time for the way we behaved. But like I can't even imagine what they'd have done to us if it got out that we were whacking the teacher on the knuckles with wooden spoons. Like they'd have just lined us up and like shot us all. That is, like I like it blows my mind that it is so different. I mean, let's see, 9th grade. If I'd have been in 5th grade, so that's honestly, it's not even that long of a difference, because by the time, because you're younger than me, so it's like what, 5-6 years. That it changed that much.
Yeah, it was mostly one family that was in there most of the time, and their dad was the head singer of the church at the time.
Ah.
Oh, never mind. It all makes sense now.
And Lucian,
Yeah.
Lucian avoids confrontation, so
he just
yes.
took it.
Especially when I'm around a bunch of white people.
So
that I
it was
don't
just
really know.
it was just Sam and Ethan being like, "We're gonna get this guy."
Oh, exactly. That's exactly right. I'm so funny that you
This
called that out
whole
immediately.
story. The second you said that who it was, I was like, "Oh, everything just fell right into place."
But Mike, what's your number one?
My number one. So, my number one, the only job on this list that I actually like, and it is without a doubt my favorite job I've ever had, and that was Beatty's Mongolian Grill of Portage. So, I worked that first job building fences over the summer after my freshman year at college, and my dad was like, "Hey, if you're gonna be living at home, during the summer, you have to have 20 hours of work documented a week. And we're going to have a weekly meeting so that you can show me you're doing 20 hours of work. So I got this job building fences, and I got to the end of the summer and I was like, you know what, man, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. College is insanely expensive. Maybe I don't go back and accrue more debt, and instead I work while I try to figure out what it is I want to actually pursue. And then I'll be making money instead of losing money. And in a moment that is still, I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. So I wouldn't say it's hotly contested, but neither of us have given ground. Well, I had already canceled. Like, I filled out the paperwork. I'm not coming back to school this year. And my dad goes, well, when it's with it getting cold, like, what's your plan for working 40 hours a week? And I was like, wait, no, the rule was 20 hours a week. He said, yeah, but you're staying. We talked about this. You have to have a full-time job documented. And I was like, no, we never had this conversation. I only need 20. It's like, no, we did. And it doesn't matter because that's the rule. And so all of a sudden I didn't have the option to go back to school and didn't have a full-time job and had no prospects to find a full-time job. And so I don't know if you guys remember Aaron from camp.
I do.
But yeah, he had recently married the sister of the girl I was dating. And so I was like, and I don't know what happened, but at some point they were like, hey, if you ever want to come move out to Kalamazoo, you can move into our apartment. And I was like, well, shoot, like, I'm sick of dealing with this cross the state long distance-ish relationship. I got to get out of the house because I don't have a full-time job. Screw it. And so I moved out to Kalamazoo, moved into Candlewick Apartments, and worked one job, 2 jobs before I was like, I hate both these jobs. I need to find another place. And so I went to Steak and Shake and I applied for this job and I completely bombed, which I don't know if you've ever felt the emotional low of realizing you can't get a job at Steak and Shake, but it's not a good place to be.
Not quite that, but I definitely know the feeling of bombing an interview.
Yeah, like I bombed an interview at Steak and Shake.
Also, fries are dumb, so you don't want to work there anyways.
I love their fries. Anyway, I
Steak
walk
Shake
out.
slaps.
I'm feeling so down, and I look up, and right across the street is the Beatty's Mongolian Barbecue, and I was like, I may as well try. How much worse can today get? And I walked in, and it turned out the owner, I believe, of the restaurant I was working at was dad or the uncle of the general manager at this Beatty's. And so I was like, hey, hiring manager, blah, blah, blah. Someone goes off to get the manager. We're chatting it up. It comes out that, I work for, your boss's uncle. And the manager comes out and we actually have like a really good interview. She was super cool. Turns out she lived in the same apartment complex as me. So like we chatted about that for a bit. And then it got really weird. She was like, she started asking questions like how many 6-ounce spheres can fit in a 32 milliliter glass, and what superhero would you want to be if you could be any superhero? Would you rather fight 50 horse-sized ducks or duck-sized horse? Those kind of questions. And I was just like, all right, well, this is bizarre, but I'm going to just answer these very seriously, like it's a job interview. And she got to the last question. She goes, do you have any information as to who did, in fact, let the dogs out? And I looked her dead in her eyes and I said, it was me. And she offered me the job on the spot. And it turns out it turns out that right before I came in here, somebody had left who was offered a second interview. And he was coming in for a second interview when his background check came back. And he had like all that was told to me later was he had meth charges. I don't know what that means, but they were like, we're definitely not interviewing this guy. So they had one of the cooks make a fake interview. And so when she got done interviewing me, she was like, this'll be fun. And she gave me the meth head interview without taking a break. And so that was how I started this job. I've worked at so many jobs where somebody or, somebody higher up is like, we're a family here. And every single one of those jobs, let me just say, bullshit.
Red flag.
No, you're not. Everybody's selfish. You're all lying, except Mongo, because genuinely to this day, I keep in touch with multiple people from this job. Some of my absolute favorite human beings on the planet are people that I met at Mongo. People I talked to today, I met at Mongo. It was the best. I had so many incredible experiences there. I ended up living after Emma and Aaron realized they were pregnant and wanted to get a place that wasn't up 3 flights of stairs. I ended up living with a couple guys who worked at the same restaurant, and we just had an absolute blast. 2 of my best friends at the time. Learned so many things. There was one day I was waiting tables, and I showed up to the table, and Seamus was just at my table. And I was like, Seamus? And he was like, oh, hey. And I got him a special order that had sauce at the back that wasn't available. And even though all of us were just totally whacked out godless heathens at the time, we all had each other's back. And so I made a bunch of terrible decisions during that time. Go see Breaking the Rules #1 for the worst version of that story. But because we really did have each other's back, I think that chunk of my life went so much better than it had any right to for the decision making I was doing at the time. There was also a point where I was at a party and I met Seamus's oldest brother. I didn't even know, I knew you had an older brother. I didn't know
really?
until
You
that
met
moment.
Brody?
Yeah. He somehow his last name came up and I was like, do you know Seamus? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, never tell him we met tonight. This kid has been in my cabin twice.
Oh my God.
I don't need him to know how drunk we both are.
That's wild. What?
Yeah, it was at a random house party that someone I barely knew, some brand new worker was like, hey, I'm going to this party. So I knew almost nobody there, but I met Seamus's oldest brother.
That's crazy. What?
Yeah, it was so wild. And then the way it all ended was nuts too, because one day we all show up and there's just a letter in the back, and it turned out it was a franchise. It turned out the owner of the franchise had stopped paying rent on the building for 9 months, and he was essentially giving all of us our 2-week notice because after 2 weeks the building was going to close. And so that was the moment where it was it really did solidify the idea that we're a family, because you watched as it got more and more frustrating and people kept quitting. But the core group of us, we were all this is awful. And in any other job I would quit. But if I quit, I'm making this situation worse for these other people. And so we all stuck it out for the last 10 days. And the last 5 of which, by that point, news had gotten out that Mongo was closing. And so all the people who really loved the place were coming in and trying to get as much as they could before it shut down, because the next nearest one was an hour and a half away. So you'd open it, you show up at 9 o'clock, get the restaurant ready, open at 11, and we would be packed from 11 a.m. until whenever we ran out of food, usually 8:30 at night. And we would literally empty an entire inventory, close the building down, get a midnight shipment, restock the building, and do it all again the next day for a week, or for 5 days. I think the highest I hit was I made $410 in a night. It was insane. Now it was non-stop packed restaurant work from 11 to 8. So it was 9 straight hours. But we all made enough money that we were cool, we'll be fine while we look for other jobs. And I ended up moving back to the east side after that. And it was just, it was wild.
All right. You think about wrapping this up?
Yeah, if you guys want.
Yeah, I need to go to bed.
Seamus, where can we find your stuff? How can the people find you online? Or in person, if that's how you want to do business.
You can find me online at excursionstudios.com. If you want to know how to spell that, it's EXCURSION, then studios.com.
That's COM?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Is it DOT or just the period?
It's period. But yeah, it's just it's my freelance videography company that I create content for all sorts of things. Lately, it's been promos for breweries and acting theaters, but I have done all sorts of different content for, like I said earlier, pharmaceutical companies, a recruitment video, and the slogan is every video has its journey, and I feel like that's such a true statement because there's so much that goes into a video. So why not take a journey with me?
Mike, what are we talking about next week? Come Christmas time.
So next week is going to be the Christmas episode. So I have been working on a, let's just say this. We're going to talk about Christmas. Next week, we are going to do a top secret special Christmas episode. Stay tuned. You nincompoops.
All right, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us for anything we have going on. We have that giveaway going on. You can find out more on our Twitter. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review and a comment, and we'll read it on the air. Other than that, we hope you guys have a great week, and remember, stay classy, toppers.